prices are going down. What I am saying is murder rates. They actually are going down.
Inflation is still
plateauing.
It is decreasing in rate, which is the entire goal.
But are prices going down or not? Just to be clear. No, they're not.
They
going
are down
from
their sky high rates.
Yeah. Actually,
no. Let's move on. Next up for
we were just arguing over combat zones. I don't know where we are this morning.
You can argue.
You guys are trying to paint a picture of a country that doesn't exist.
I'm not painting anything. I'm painting. Stop talking. That's what I'm painting.
That's pretend journalist Kate Bolduan attempting to silence CNN black sheep Scott Jennings for calling out Bakari sellers on air. Welcome to Nerk News. I'm Nerkish, and I'm not sure if you're aware, but it was recently the anniversary of establishment media's favorite national holiday, Jan 6, which means that they're once again returning to their old playbooks of pushing solemn fear-mongering, hysteria, and ridiculous equivocations.
Scott, in a political sense, is it how we got here? Is interesting, and you can see the evolution. You can play all the sound bites from the days after when you heard Republicans blaming Donald Trump, some being short of saying he should be impeached, saying he should be held accountable. And 4 years later, we are here. It is a stunning political comeback attributed to how Trump played it afterward, how Democrats played it afterward, or something else?
Well, I think it's some mixture of everything. But to me, the big message is that in the United States, the people decide. And because of the disastrous 4 years that came after Donald Trump, the people decided to return Donald Trump to power. And that's fundamentally what happened. They looked at what happened on January the 6th. They looked at all the things Democrats claimed about Donald Trump. And they also analyzed every single decision that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris made. And they delivered Donald Trump a convincing victory 4 years later.
It is tough, though, Scott, because when you say the people decide, that's what people tried to make sure didn't happen on January 6th, was allowing the people to decide.
The machinery turned. It was a terrible...
The lack of acknowledgement of how bad it was in the aftermath.
I mean, I think a great many people have acknowledged it, but also what happened that day. The machinery turned. Joe Biden became the president. He had one of the worst terms of any U.S. president, and then the people scrambled back to Donald Trump. That is the history of what happened.
You know, you can almost see Scott's muscle memory kicking in a bit here, because this obviously isn't the first time he's fielded this sort of stuff recently. I mean, let's not forget that he works for CNN, who wasn't going to waste the opportunity to blast their airwaves with wall-to-wall coverage about this, while simultaneously attempting to paint Trump as some sort of chief architect or something that was absolutely never confirmed.
Yeah, I think it'll be remembered, but I don't think it's going to be remembered singularly. I think it's going to be remembered in the context of the last 8 years, 4 years of Trump, 4 years of Biden. I mean, the fact is it happened. It was a terrible day. Violence, political violence should never be condoned. And then we lived through 4 years of Biden's presidency, and the American people went scrambling back to Donald Trump. They chose to analyze two presidencies, which included one day and a whole bunch of other policy decisions, and they went back to Trump. The other thing about this day and about this election that I think is noteworthy and actually positive is this. It's not been since 1988 that Democrats have not challenged a Republican win on the floor of the House when trying to count the votes. I've never had an election in my adult professional career in which both sides basically accepted it without too much grumbling. Obviously, 00 and 04, Democrats didn't accept Bush. There were Republicans who didn't accept Obama. We know Democrats still think Russia stole the election in 2016. We know what happened in 2020. This time around, it seems to me that most people have basically accepted the results of the election. Also, the Electoral Reform Count Act passed in 2022, clarifying that the vice president only has ministerial duty, so that's going to go off without a hitch today. It feels like maybe we've gotten off the slippery slope of one side or the other not accepting the outcome of an election. So in its totality over the last quarter century, I tend to think that's a good thing.
I think Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, look, I get it, and I agree that in the long run, I think that the days of, January 6 fights are probably going to be over. We did a great thing with the Electoral Count Act reform. But we have to be very careful. We can't put Democrats, and I was against them doing it when they did it, obviously, against Democrats opposing the election. We can't put that on the same level what happened on January 6th.
What Scott just did there was undercut the narrative that CNN and the rest of establishment media has been underplaying about Democrats challenging Republican wins, which of course runs contrary to what hacks like Dana Bash were saying all day long. Here she is using Jan 6 to puff up Harris and compare her to another one of Democrats' beloved fallen champions, Al Gore.
Bringing a sense of serenity here and, of course,
4 years ago, it was anything but serene. Never mind the feel of the place, but one of the many differences was there was a vice president who was getting pressured to overturn the will of the people. This time, we are going to see a vice president who herself was on the ballot to have the highest office in the land, and she's going to have to be part of the ceremony, oversee the ceremony that is constitutional, that makes her loss certified. And I was in the Capitol, in the House chamber 4 years ago when Al Gore had to do, 24 years ago when he had to do that very thing. And I will tell you that I was told that Al Gore and Kamala Harris have spoken since the election. We don't know what they spoke about, but you can only imagine they have a lot in common.
It's amazing that it doesn't apparently matter what Republicans say about that day. We've seen this on shows like Bill Maher time and time again. Republicans can call it terrible and condemn it. They can say it was a national tragedy. They can agree on 99% of what liberals say about it. But just like everything else Democrats push, they won't accept anything other than absolute agreement on an issue. Because it's obvious that there's no nuance permitted on the left, regardless of contrary opinions or whatever DOJ reports come out. If you don't agree with them that it was the worst day in our country's history and that Donald Trump was the one responsible for all of it, in the eyes of establishment media, there's no discussion to be had. Which frankly is why so many of these networks are now struggling. People are getting tired of this my way or the highway propaganda being peddled by dishonest media figures. But let me know what you think. Do regular Americans care about this as much as pretend journalists want them to? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. That stuff really does help us out. Until then, this has been Nerk News. Thanks for watching. Bye!